My wife, 38, and I, 32 male, have struggled with getting pregnant. We were desperate for a baby together. We've struggled for years, and thank goodness we were lucky to find out we were expecting a baby girl. My parents were thrilled, especially my dad. He bought clothes, toys, checked on us, and made sure he was there to support us and his future granddaughter. Our daughter was born with a defect, Down syndrome. My wife and I knew we had many challenges in the future, but that didn't make us less excited or unhappy. My dad, however, had an awful reaction after he found out. He kept bringing up that it was my wife's fault, that I should have married a younger woman, which was awful of him to say. He said that he didn't want to have anything to do with this. He distanced himself and stopped talking to us and visiting us and took the stuff back. I cut contact, but Mom visited regularly. This happened years ago. My daughter is now a toddler. I'm in contact with my sister. She has a baby son that my dad spends time with, posts pictures of on social media, and brings gifts to. I couldn't help but feel hurt and anger. He didn't even try to reach out, and it's been years. Recently, I heard my sister got in an argument with my dad. She moved out of state, and he didn't want her and her husband to move so he could see his grandson. My mom would visit and talk about how frustrated and mad my dad is. Despite telling her to drop it, she mentioned that my dad wants us to visit so he could start spending time with his granddaughter. I asked her, what granddaughter? Because for 3 years, he disowned her, and her entire life he's been acting like she doesn't exist. I can't remember the number of nights when I would wake up to my wife crying because of what he said. Now my wife is calling me cruel for not agreeing to let him near my daughter. I argued with her, and I saw that others started reaching out and wanting to set up a meeting, but I refused to go. They're saying I'm robbing him of a relationship with my daughter, ignoring that it was a decision he made 3 years ago. Am I the idiot here? The issue is this has been causing everyone around me to point their fingers at me, saying I'm being bitter and preventing my dad from having his granddaughter in his life. You are not the idiot. He only wants a relationship with your daughter because his other grandchild is not available to him. Your daughter deserves so much better than that man. Tell your dad, mom, and anyone who agrees with them that they can buzz off because you won't subject your daughter to such a disgusting person. I am so sorry you and your wife are going through this. You sound like excellent parents, and I wish your family the best, but stick with your gut. You don't owe that man anything. Not to mention, what happens when the other daughter moves back into the state? What happens if grandpa and grandma decide to move to the state where the other grandkid is? It's so much worse for children's development to have caregivers that move in and out of their lives than it is for them to lack the presence of that caregiver entirely. You are not the idiot, not by a long shot. This isn't bitterness. This is protecting his daughter. You are not wrong. He hasn't even apologized for his actions. He hasn't contacted you at all. For all you know, he still wants nothing to do with his granddaughter. Your daughter is not a consolation prize for him, now that his grandson has moved far away. He made his decision years ago. He does not have a granddaughter. Love this. If Dad truly wants a relationship with his granddaughter, he would call to meet with you, apologize, and ask for permission to contact your wife and apologize to her. If both were satisfied with the apology and they were up for it, then they could introduce their daughter to him. But this has to be all done and initiated by Grandpa, or no go. I didn't even read the whole thing. When I saw that she was born with Down syndrome, by the way, not a defect, and your dad was disappointed, that's all I needed to read. First, syndrome is nobody's fault, mainly because it doesn't make a person less than. Second, he has no idea the amount of absolute unconditional love he's going to miss out on from this baby girl, and he will be ashamed of himself for his actions. Just keep loving her and planning princess birthday parties, cheerleading teams, kindergarten, and so much more. There are no limits for these amazing humans. I've, 32 male, been married to my wife, 29, for about 7 years. We have discussed having kids before, but we always said to wait a couple of years until our careers were more stable. We've been enjoying our child-free lives, but about a year back, we decided things were going pretty well for us and thought it's about time we had our baby. Working from home also frees up a lot of time for extracurricular activities. We haven't had any luck so far, but we're having the when it happens mentality, so we're not rushing anything. Sometime around October last year, wife suggested that we should get a puppy. We're both animal lovers, and we thought it was a great time since both of us would be at home and we could watch over the house and train it. We got the puppy, and we both love him dearly, but ever since we got him, I've had to bathe, feed, and clean up after him. Don't get me wrong, she helps out as well, but I would say it's in a 90 to 10% ratio. It gets extremely tiring after a while, and sometimes I just want to kick my feet up, have a nice beer, and watch TV without being interrupted with, "Hey, the puppy just peed. Can you come clean it up?" It carried on for a couple of months, and a couple of nights ago, after a long Zoom session for work, I exploded and told her she needs to do her share of looking after the puppy, and I'm tired of being the one who does all the work. She told me I was being calculative and trying to undermine her. I told her that it's clear I've been doing all the dirty work and all she wants to do is play with the puppy. This is where I might have gone too far. I told her if I can't trust her to look after our puppy, how can I trust her to look after a baby? If we had a baby, I won't be able to take cleaning up after him all the time, and she had to do her share as well. If she was going to act the same way, I would rather not have a kid. She screamed at me, burst into tears, and left the house. She's been staying at her parents' for a few days now, but things don't really seem to be improving. Her parents are telling me it was a horrible thing to say, as looking after a puppy is not the same as a baby, and that she would make a great mom, and that I should come over and apologize to make things right. Personally, I feel like it was harsh, yet I had to make a stand. I wouldn't know what to do if a baby comes along and she continues acting the same way. So, am I the idiot for the way I acted? Coming from someone who does have kids, you are not wrong. Her response is typical of someone who lacks insight and objectivity. Yes, a dog and a child are not the same, but people who act this way often carry it into parenthood. If you asked me, you dodged the bullet there. Do not reproduce with this person if you want equality in a relationship. You are not the idiot. Yeah, it was a harsh thing to say, and in the future, you need to talk about this sort of stuff rather than holding it until you explode. But your logic isn't exactly off the mark. A puppy is a lot easier to care for than a human. So if she's doing close to nothing and relying completely on you, and you may not have the time to do the same for a child, then I'd just reiterate what I started with, that you should communicate these things earlier to avoid a blow-up situation. You are not wrong. Why do her parents believe that she would make a great mom when she is a living, breathing creature in her care that she's not taking care of? I have had dogs, and I now have children. If she can't deal with a puppy going potty on the floor, then she can't deal with a baby. My 2-month-old has had a poo explosion 3 times today. Maybe her parents are trying to convince you and themselves so you'll take their daughter back and she won't be their problem. It's okay to pack up the kid idea and just be child-free. She doesn't want the work or responsibility. Believe her. You are the idiot. Lots of perfectly fine parents are awful pet owners. A puppy is similar, but when it's your own child, you end up doing what you would never have originally done. The investment is completely different. You have presented this as a test, failed, that she never knew she was set. My ex-wife and I have been divorced for 2 years. We share custody of our 2 young sons. We still live within a half hour of each other, which makes co-parenting relatively simple in regards to picking up and dropping off the kids. All in all, I think we do a pretty good job of making sure the kids are well adjusted as they can be at this point, and we communicate as well as we can. However, there was one thing I haven't told my ex about yet. About 3 to 4 months ago, I met someone. We took it relatively slow starting out, but have since gotten fairly serious and have been spending a lot of time together. I've made a point not to have her at my house when I have the kids, because I'm not ready to introduce my kids to anyone that they might think of as a replacement to their mom, and also because it has only been a few months. New girlfriend knows I have kids and am divorced, and she hasn't pressured me at all into meeting them or anything like that. Since the relationship is relatively new, I haven't told my ex. For one, I don't know where this relationship will go. It's my first relationship after the divorce. Also, I don't know if my dating life is her business or not, as long as I'm not exposing my kids to any of it. This all blew up in my face a couple of weeks ago. My ex was going to drop the kids with me in the afternoon, and my new girlfriend had spent the night before. New girlfriend and I stayed in bed a little later than usual, as new couples are wont to do. What I didn't notice during this time was that my ex had called and sent text saying that she needed to drop the kids off sooner than she had planned due to a work emergency. Ex ended up driving over to my house and saw my car there, so she rang the doorbell, which just happened to be answered by my new girlfriend, wearing nothing but a towel because I was still in the bathroom. Needless to say, a whole lot of awkwardness ensued, and my new girlfriend rushed out of the house as fast as she could. My ex and I got the kids settled in, and then she wanted to talk to me before she left. My ex was mad that I had a girl over and accused me of exposing our kids to random women. I tried to explain to her what happened and told her she wasn't supposed to just show up at my house like that anyway, and that she was a half a day early with dropping the kids off. But she wouldn't listen. She called me an idiot for not answering my phone and called me and my new girlfriend a bunch of names too. I get that this all came as a shock to her, and it wasn't my intention for my ex to find out like this. But I also feel like I am allowed to live my own life as I want now, and I don't need permission from anyone. I keep my dating life separate from my kids, and I meet all my obligations to my sons. Should I have told my ex about me dating again? Was I an idiot to keep this a secret from her? Not the idiot, but I would refrain from allowing guests to open your door with only a towel on in the future. Seems a bit weird, no? Seriously, that was weird. And doing that when it's not your own home? Weirder. I'd say that your girlfriend wants your relationship known. She says that she understands, but then does that? That was no accident. Honestly, you are the idiot. Downvote me, people. But if you're a parent expecting your children to arrive that day, you keep your phone near you so you're reachable. It's not uncommon for people to contact the other party regarding plans. Also, your new girlfriend knew your kids were coming over at some point in the day and answered the door to your house in nothing but a towel? Okay. That's all kinds of weird. No idiots here. You're right not to alert your ex to your dating life because this woman hadn't met or interacted with the kids. However, what girlfriend answers the front door in a towel? Almost no one answers the front door these days to begin with, unless they're expecting someone, and this isn't her house. That part of the story sounds like the girlfriend wanted to make some point to your ex. I, female 18, have 3 siblings, younger brother and 2 younger sisters. My mom has never been involved in our lives. She was around sometimes, and when my dad passed 5 years ago, she was almost unbothered and continued to live her life. A year later, she married an old friend of my dad's. Together, they went on all sorts of trips, made plans with just them, and my siblings and I were at my grandparents' house almost every day. The few times my mom cared to be around us were when she wanted to take the family pictures to post online. Because of my mom being absent, my sisters relied on me to teach them about their periods, and I gave them the talk as well. I discussed those things nearly 2 to 3 years ago and did my best to explain everything I knew at that age, and it seemed to have done the job. Since quarantine, my mom has been forced to stay at home, and she pouted about it the first few months. Around July last year, she found out my youngest sister was having periods, and she got annoyed she wasn't the first to know. My sister has been having them for over 2 years. Lately, my mom has been trying to talk to my sisters and offer them motherly advice, as she calls it. She's had no success, but still pushes it almost daily. Last night, my sister was having a really off day and went to bed earlier than normal. My mom kept bothering her and telling her it was too early to sleep. It was 9 p.m., and my sister blew up at her and told her to basically buzz off. She came downstairs where my brother and I were at, and she started going on how she blamed my dad for making us choose him as the favorite parent, and if it weren't for him, she'd have a better relationship with us. That much ticked me off, because she chose to live some child-free lifestyle rather than be around us. She kept going how she missed so many milestones in our lives, like my sisters getting their first period, or my brother getting his first girlfriend. Not once did she try to acknowledge she was the main reason she missed those things. Here's where I feel like an idiot. I blew up at her, completely lost it. I told her she needed to not blame my dad, and if she wanted to know the real reason she missed out, she should look in the mirror. She started crying and said I'm making her look like a bad mother. I ended it with, she should feel like a bad mother, because she is one. I've since felt awful for what I said, and I think I might have been too hard on her. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your mother seems to have confused you and your siblings with dolls and thought that she could basically ignore you for years and that you'd still be waiting in the toy box when she decided that she wanted to play with you again. You are not the idiot here. You were harsh, but it sounds true. She didn't know one of her daughters had already had her period for 2 years? If she really wants to take steps to repair relationships, the first step is to apologize. The second is to take steps to change. And the third is likely therapy. She'd also have to understand that simply saying you're a family again doesn't mean everything is fixed. Sorry for everything you've gone through. Sounds like you've been a stellar big sister, though. You are not wrong. Your mother neglected you and believed her own social media hype about you being a happy family. She doesn't get to have a relationship with you. That's meaningful unless she takes a hard look at herself and changes. Me, female 25, and my husband Leo, 27, have been married for 2 years. He and his family always struggled financially. He lost his mom at a young age and is now in no contact with his father because of his stepmother's treatment. He didn't have much when I met him. He's a very emotional and prideful person, sometimes tends to be irrational. He injured his leg 6 months ago in a truck accident. He's using crutches, unable to walk without them. He can't work. He doesn't have a degree, but used to work in construction. He has an ongoing pain, and medication isn't helping him, and I'm worried about it. I have a job that's barely enough. My parents are supportive. They'd send groceries, come over and help out with some stuff. Leo's always shown them appreciation, and they consider him their son. A few days ago, he's been talking about whether my parents can help him pay for his surgery so he could work again. I told him my parents don't have $17,000 to help with surgery, and our talk ended. Yesterday, we were visiting my parents. We were sitting talking when Leo started complaining about his leg and being unable to work, and went on about the cost of surgery to my parents, and they nodded, feeling sorry for us. Leo asked them if they could help by giving us $17,000 for the surgery. My dad politely told him that they don't have that kind of money. Then Leo, out of nowhere, mentioned my sister's college fund and asked if they could use some of it to help out. I was shocked. My dad started berating him for bringing it up and told him that this is their daughter's future that they don't take lightly. Said he didn't appreciate Leo's inconsiderate behavior to be asking this, but Leo kept talking about paying them back. But how can he pay back $17,000? He looked at me, almost tearing up. Then my dad asked us to leave because he thought I agreed with Leo, but I was dumbfounded. I had no idea he'd do this. We got home. Leo was upset I let my parents berate him, said he was stunned by my reaction, and said that he's my husband and I'm the one who knows how much he's suffering and should understand his situation. We had an argument. I lashed out at him. I told him he had no right to even mention my sister's future and put me and my parents in this awful situation. I told him to stop it after he said he'd pay them back, but we both know he won't be able to. After arguing, I left the room to calm down. I was surprised to see him crying in the room. I felt terrible, mostly helpless because I understand he's looking for help. But my parents are upset with me now, and I can't even call them. My sister is nearly adult now. You are not the idiot. It sure takes a certain amount of something to ask your in-laws to give you your sister-in-law's college fund after your wife told you they could not afford to do so. I understand he is in pain, but that does not excuse his behavior, and the fact he's made it so your parents are also upset with you is pretty horrible. I wish I could say no idiots here, because the desperation of your husband hits me hard. I feel a little bummed that there's going to be a flood of comments berating him for awful behavior. But I kinda get it. Constant pain makes you go crazy. Pride is even harder to swallow when you feel useless all the time. The anxiety of astronomical medical bills in the United States is a nightmare. Of course, even so, his behavior was unacceptable and crossed into the idiot territory. Therefore, you are not wrong here. Best of luck, OP. Please reach out to your parents. Please communicate with your husband. I'm really hoping you guys get on the same page.